Welcome back to our little chats. Oh, how I enjoy them. Oh, how I am fond of them. And we got some stuff to talk about here today. Yet another day in the world. We will take your calls on this edition of the stream. Wait for you guys to matriculate on in to the program. I'm going to check in my Twitter here. All right. I'll bring up the chatteroo. Greetings, friends. Hopefully everybody had a good day. We are going into a weekend. Got a busy week to next week, dude. Busy week next week. I'm pulling a real Fox News, man. Down on the border at the beginning of the week, and I'm in my sweet state of South Carolina. The 4-year anniversary of when all my dreams died in 2020. Back when we actually had, God, 4 years ago in South Carolina, you had, when I left from my then home in Oakland to South Carolina, Bernie Sanders had just won the first 3 primaries. Very close. Turns out he won in Iowa. Then he wins in New Hampshire. And then he blows out everybody in Nevada. Scheduled loss in South Carolina, but you thought he was going to roll on in to Super Tuesday. And the real question, the real serious issue was, could he get enough delegates on Super Tuesday to actually win the nomination, or would Joe Biden stay in for long enough that it would force a floor fight, which would usually means that neither of the two would get it. But it would be an absolute mess going into an election with an incumbent. And so things were about to get pretty grim for everybody but Bernie fans. And even Bernie fans had a lot to worry about. And then Trump has a rally in South Carolina, as he was doing rallies alongside all of the Democratic contests. He, is mocking everybody. But there are a few mentions at the Bernie rally I was at of, there's this thing in China. It's happening. This flu in China. Bada bing, bang, boom. Everything starts getting shut down. We don't have a primary. Joe Biden wins. Everybody drops out and endorses Biden. It's a Stop Bernie movement, and it works. Things normally don't happen, let alone work. And, but I always have South Carolina. South Carolina was a really fun moment for me. Any thoughts on the UFO disclosures? I have not seen anything today. Everything I have seen up till now has been dumb. I don't. What are we really talking about here, guys? Come on. What are we really talking about? A guy has sworn under oath that he talked to another guy who swears he saw a UFO. Come on. Like, what do we want with that? What do we want with that? Can't do nothing with it. I'll tell you what I was fascinated by yesterday. Take a wild guess at what unfolding news story on Twitter/X that I was fascinated by yesterday? I want your guesses because we might just go ahead and play a bunch of clips. Today's episode should be out very soon. If it is not already out. It's running a touch late. Brett texted me. I'll check here. I did watch X-Men 97's trailer. It looked very faithful to the cartoon that I loved as a child. And it also made me scared to rewatch the cartoon I loved as a child. Yeah, let me take a look. I know that Brett was taking a little bit longer with it this morning. Yeah, not up yet. Let me get an ETA here. No, this is before Navalny. I was very, very excited with Sora. I talked a little bit about Sora on DTNS, though. Yeah, Sora's, look, I think one of the most fascinating elements, if we can get nerdy for a second, is that it appears OpenAI has made that text to video generator as impressive as it looks to be on largely synthetic data, meaning that it used AI to create examples that it could train AI on, which is crazy. Looks like episode will be up in 20. It's a really good interview, so I want him to take his time. Let me make sure that I tell him that, not just you guys. Take your time. Want the interview to be good. Have I talked about the RFK apology for the Super Bowl halftime show? That is George here on YouTube. No, because am I going to cover every time the Kennedys have to apologize to each other? There's a billion of them. Look, RFK Jr., the son of RFK, he's allowed to do it in my mind. You know, whatever. I'm not gonna cover every little internal dinner fight that happens with the Kennedy family. They are an interesting part of our American legacy. I've spent a lot of time covering and talking about them. I've read a lot about them. It's fine. It's fine. RFK Jr. liking a Pog thirst trap Instagram and blaming it on a staffer. Do we think that he's really on Instagram like that? RFK Jr.? RFK Jr.'s 70. You think he's really perusing Instagram? Because I buy the staffer thing. Yeah, I mean, he is a Kennedy. It is on brand for him to be cruising for that ass. That's true. I just think he would be doing it the old-fashioned way, the way his papa did, the way his uncle did, you know? It's finding some coups on the street. Oh, George, you're talking about the ad. No, yeah, he did not create or spend the money on the ad. The super PAC did. Now, did he see the ad? Well, here's the law when it comes to super PACs. If you're not familiar, super PACs cannot privately communicate or strategize with a campaign. All communication needs to be public. This has created some very interesting situations when it comes to what is and is not public on the internet. So oftentimes, a super PAC or a campaign, there was a thing a while ago where Ted Cruz, I forget which way it was going, but one side posted an unlisted video of Ted Cruz on the internet, on YouTube. Now, it's public. Anybody can see that link. It's not private. It's not password protected. But if through back channels, a friend tells a friend and it only gets from the super PAC to the campaign, then is it private or public? This line has continually been pushed for years and years and years since then, including, I think probably the biggest one was JD Vance. There was a big Peter Thiel sponsored super PAC that was running the JD Vance, a lot of the JD Vance campaign. And the Vance campaign and the super PAC were talking to each other on a public message board that was unlisted. And technically, that's not, at least as of now, a violation. Who would win, RFK Jr. or Nikki Haley? Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley. I mean, if it's just a one-on-one where RFK Jr. was the Democrat, I would say Nikki Haley probably. More money in politics will solve the problem. Well, I mean, again, when we talk money in politics, you have to talk enforcement and you have to talk whether or not there are any kind of secondary outcomes to it. Like, I don't think McCain-Feingold has been a good thing. Now we have, Citizens United came along. We have the birth of the super PAC. You have as much money that came in. And so, like, look, people are going to find a way to influence elections. Life will find a way to do it. For me, I think transparency is good. I would say let super PACs and campaigns coordinate with each other, but they have to do everything in a public channel, not any public channel, a designated public channel that we can watch. Make your Slack public. And if you are found communicating literally anywhere else, then you get punished for it. Sithlos, he has the Kennedy name. The Kennedy name is a good brand, and it's better when you are closer to the ones that were good. But there's been a lot of people with the Kennedy name that have run that have absolutely eaten shit. There was a Joe Kennedy that got his ass kicked not long ago against Ed Markey. All right. Nobody has gotten, I think somebody said it in the chat, but nobody has gotten what I was obsessed with. And that was, look, say what you will about Mr. Musk. Say what you will about moderators and spam bots, but X is the king when it comes to live news. There's no place I'd rather be, especially in politics, than on the site they once called Twitter. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that offends you. Sorry if it disappoints you. But I am a man of simple tastes. And there's only one site where people, before posting to their actual job that pays them, will run to this message board and post things before. And that's X. So the thing that was going off yesterday was a dramatic moment. In fact, we might actually just watch this whole thing. I don't know how long it goes. But Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Oh, wait, hold on. Is she talking right now? No, she's not talking right now. Court is in recess right now. Let's just go to this live. Oh. No, we do not want that. We want that. I think I accidentally hit a I hit a sound effect there. Okay.
Should ever eat processed food for every single meal.
Okay, I don't care about that. These are highlights from yesterday. This is exactly what I want. All right.
You never went to Florida with Mr. Wade?
When we went to get on the cruise ship, we went to Miami.
Okay, that's the only time that you went to Florida with him?
I think we went to Miami and spent the night. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I think we spent one night so that we wouldn't miss the ship. That's my recollection of our
Paid for that hotel.
in Miami. I don't remember that.
And how'd you get to Miami?
We would have flown.
Okay.
And we've done that, so that I'm clear. We've done that twice. I think one time we stayed, and I honestly can't tell you, did we stay when the ship left or did we stay when the ship came back? I also can't tell you, so there's 2 cruises out of Miami. There's one that's in that October time period that was with his mom. And then there was another that was a New Year's Eve trip. I know I paid for the New Year's Eve trip because the tickets were $697 each. And I thought this is ridiculous that the tickets are $700 to go to Miami. But when you travel during New Year's Eve, you know, they get you.
So I just want to lay this out for folks.
That was the time that you said you stayed.
Fani Willis is the district attorney for Georgia. She is most notable in our modern world for being the district attorney that has brought RICO cases, which is there to break up gangs, mobs and gangs historically, against 2 gigantic public figures. Of course, the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, for his attempt to overturn the results of the election in the county of Fulton in Georgia, as well as musical superstar Young Thug. She brought a case against him and his entire record label, YSL, claiming that they were a street gang. Now, this has become an issue because Fani Willis, I don't know how to say it. We're going to say Fani. Fani Willis is dating. This is not controversial. She's admitted it. She is dating the lead attorney in the Trump trial. She is dating. The question is whether or not she overpaid him and whether or not she benefited from her overpaying of him when she made the decision. The other side of this is when they started dating, because if they started dating before she decided to hire him, now we have other problems. So this hearing right now that happened yesterday and is going to happen today is about whether or not she will be disqualified from being involved in this case, at which point you would need another district attorney to either take this case up, unlikely, like she would have to resign and there would have to be a new district attorney, or another county would basically have to restart this entire process. And I think it is safe to say legally that Fani Willis is somebody that has been more inclined to bring things like RICO cases.
For his 50th birthday, I consider that I took him to Belize. And I took him to Belize because, I don't want to discuss his personal business, but I'm happy Mr. Wade is still here with us. And I did 50 big, very big.
So still on that October Royal Caribbean cruise, even though he had a travel agent. I'm sorry.
If you do me a favor, I don't know what cruise ship, what time. So if you'll help me and say October cruise with Mama or the New Year's Eve trip with his sisters, I'll be able to, we can communicate. I just don't know what ship.
October cruise with Mama. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He paid for the cruise and the flights for that trip.
So he called his cruise agent and he booked that through them because he has a cruise agent.
Right.
He also has a regular agent. I don't know the cruise agent's name.
So I wasn't asking about his travel agent. I was just asking if he paid for those.
He did not, though.
Okay.
Because the reason I consider that he did not is I gave him his money back.
And I was about to ask that, but initially he paid for that.
Yeah, he called his cruise agent. Like, I think they have his card on record. They do whatever.
Okay. So initially he paid for the cruise and the flight to Miami and the Royal Caribbean cruise.
And my understanding of that October cruise is like it was a package the lady did for him.
Now, by the way,
and I'll get to the reimbursements and all that. I'm just trying to.
This is something else. She was not supposed to take the stand yesterday. She was pissed at two pieces of testimony that came out. Number one, a friend of hers that testified under oath that they were dating before she said that they were dating in 2019, not 2022 or whatever. And then the attorney in question came up and said, a lot of stuff that was like not great from her perspective. All right, here we go. We're getting back.
Courtroom here after Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will not be making her way to the stand for day 2 here. So that was the big news coming this morning. Earlier today, the state's attorney, Anna Cross, announced that they have no more questions for District Attorney Willis, and that's why she won't be on the stand anymore. That means her testimony is done. The judge asked the attorney if she was ready to call more witnesses, and right now they're just reviewing questions at this moment. So we are going to take a 2-minute break. Stay right here with us. Always more to come.
All right, we don't care about that. We want to see Fani Willis's testimony.
Presence. Thank you.
Your Honor, Mike Smith, Clark V-Shape, Mr. Hampton, with local counsel John New York.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that at all.
With local
Ms. Cross. Here that needs to happen. And if we need to get to that.
Well, this is not what we want. We want Fani Willis's testimony. Let's get this testimony. Entire defiant testimony.
Beef barbacoa might be our best kept secret. Slow cooked, responsibly raised beef, seasoned with garlic and cumin, hand shredded for fall of the fork tenderness. Chipotle's braised beef barbacoa. If you know, you know.
District Attorney Fani, Fani. Last name is Willis.
Ms. Willis, how did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
There were people I was pacing in my office.
Okay.
And I heard someone yell, "His testimony is done." It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation.
So somebody said that she was wearing her dress backwards. Is her dress backwards or is that just a zipper in the front?
Ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Great. So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today.
So for the record, this is Trump's lawyer. They are looking to disqualify her from this case. And again, that would essentially kill this case. The Trump case in Georgia would, by all accounts, be gravely injured, if not be dead, if the person who decided to bring these charges were no longer allowed to be involved in the case because of a conflict of interest.
Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On January, this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
Okay, but my question was, did you have a conversation with
I didn't
him?
have a substantive conversation.
You did not.
I read this motion, skimmed it more so, and I've probably said some choice things to him about some of the lies that were told.
Okay.
And then printed in the media because, you know, we used to be in a day and time where you had 60 Minutes and people did stories and they verified information.
60 Minutes is still on the air, for the record. 60 Minutes is catching strays. 60 Minutes has not been canceled. It is still on the air.
And you had this great reporting. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see.
Well, I just want to make sure that you answer the question I asked, though. So my question was,
Overruled, Mr. Abadi.
I told you what happened. I read the motion. I am sure I told him what my opinion of it is.
Okay.
And past that, we had no substantive conversation.
you did not. Okay.
Is it something you didn't understand?
No, I just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
you did not have a meeting with him in the conference room to discuss the
All
motion.
right, next question,
No.
Ms. Merchant.
So in the conference room of my office within this week, you produced some financial document. That financial document was given to me, something, and I'm not even sure who was giving it to him by me or Mr. Abadi gave it to me. And I think he showed me a document in our conference room. But as far as a substantive conversation, I don't believe I've had any conversation with him that is substantive related to this.
Okay.
I have had conversations with him since you filed the motion, but they wouldn't be substantive to this. He sent me very nice sermons that have been done. And so we've had conversations about, did you listen to that sermon? You know, things of that nature. And I would say they were in relationship to this because I think he did it to be kind.
Let's start back in 2019.
Yeah.
So you and Mr. Wade met in October 2019 at a conference?
That is correct. And I think in one of your motions, you tried to implicate I slept with him at that conference, which I find to be extremely offensive. I stayed at that conference. Mr. Wade was my teacher. I did not meet him when he taught the class. I was standing outside talking to Lisa Reeves, who is a judge. Me and her were just having a conversation. Mr. Wade walks up and they hug each other.
Hey, look at
We had
that.
Some brief conversation. She introduces us.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. We kind of thought that when you asked the question, you can answer the question, not a speech, so I object to the speech.
I agree.
I'm able to explain my answers.
I believe she's able to explain her answer.
And that's,
That's, Ms. Merchant, that's okay. I can handle it. Ms. Willis, I'll ask you to just listen to the answer, or excuse me, the question, and keep the answers confined to the question as best you can. I think you'll have more than enough ample opportunity on when the state was
Well,
able
it's
to
highly
follow
offensive
ups.
when someone lies on you, and it's highly offensive when they try
Judge.
to implicate that you slept with somebody the first day you met with them, and I take exception to it.
All right. Well, Ms. Willis, have the opportunity to explain all of that when it's.
All right. So again, this is her coming straight out of the bullpen. Straight out of the bullpen, and she is throwing 90 miles an hour. Now, like, I don't know what it means to be a district attorney. I've never been a district attorney. I have never taken a law class in my life. I ain't taken the LSATs. I have never worked in any of these scenarios. I would imagine that a district attorney in general should be regarded for their even keel temperament. After all, if you are the arbiter of justice for your region, an even-handed and fair temperament is something that I think would be prized. At least I would as a voter and a citizen. I hope that the district attorney, well, I live in a blue city, so I hope the district attorney of my area is awake, because in blue cities like Austin, them having a pulse is a good step forward. But this is why I was obsessed with it. This is like, the word unhinged is thrown around a lot. But if she's coming out here and she's just like, you're telling me I slept with this man the first day I met him, a lie is offensive. It's like, all right, that's like some Housewives stuff, right? That's some reality television stuff. That's not district attorney. That's not district attorney who's bringing a highly politically charged case where, by the way, the pressure's going to get louder. This is not the end of the pressure. The pressure's only going to get louder.
State's turn to ask more open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Ms. Merchant.
Thank you, Judge. So again, my question was, you all met at that conference, though, right?
We did the
Okay.
meeting. As I stated, he taught the class. I did not actually meet him when he taught the class. I walked out of the class, and I'm not sure if it was that exact class or we had went to lunch, but we were standing in the vestibule, like outside of the class. Me and Judge Reeves were having a conversation. She had worked at a law firm I worked at back in 1996.
We're getting way afar. I mean, I don't mind her explaining her answers, but I literally just asked if they met at that
She's
conference.
explaining how she met Mr. Wade, which was exactly the question asked by Ms. Merchant.
It was
These answers are more than appropriate.
Ms. Merchant, if you want more concise answers, perhaps you could lead the witness.
I will. Thank you, Judge. Isn't it true that you met Mr. Wade October 2019 at the judges
He
conference?
hasn't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated hostile in this situation.
I think we
And
have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be
Not
here.
so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Thank you.
Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
All right, let's
Judge, I
proceed.
would,
By the way, she's talking to the judge. That's her talking to the judge. This is what I was fascinated by yesterday. These were the clips coming out. She's talking to the judge. So essentially, the judge is saying, if you want more concise answers, you need to ask her, you need to lead the witness so you can have more concise answers. So yes or no, District Attorney Willis, did you meet him on this day? Yes, no. So, because they're afraid that she's trying to filibuster this. So the judge suggests you should lead the witness. The Vonnie Willis's attorney says she's not a hostile witness. She says she's not a hostile witness. The judge says, well, you're not hostile, but your issues are adverse to the person who's questioning you. And I just want her to say it again.
Opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
thank you.
Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
All right, let's
Judge,
proceed.
I would,
This woman is pissed. This woman is furious. This woman is mad as hell. She is really, really, really mad. She is mad as hell. And I wonder at what point, because this testimony goes for 2 hours, does she think, damn, did I kind of screw up by coming here? I also didn't realize that her flag pin got screwed up. Does anyone know if that dress is on backward or not? It could go either way. The zipper is very small, which makes it possibly look like it wouldn't be a front zip up. Oh, and by the way, the boyfriend is the ex-boyfriend. We're going to get to some of that.
Just ask that
We can keep things moving. Ms.
Thank
Merchant,
you.
next question,
Thank you.
please.
Okay, so we've confirmed when you met. After that, isn't it true?
No, I need to explain this, and I think I get to explain my answers. When I met him, Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
So after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Do you know Robin Yurdy?
I know her as Robin Bryant. I knew her. So Robin did not go to my college. She went to the college of, I went to Howard University. She went to Morgan State. I met her through some people I knew. In college, we hung out a bit, not much because she was in Baltimore and I was in Washington, D.C. But we hung out a bit. After college, I lost contact with her. I probably didn't see Robin again until maybe 7 or 8 years ago, a chance meeting here in Atlanta.
Robin is the witness that said they were dating before Wade and Willis say that they were dating. That's a crucial element of this particular trial of whether or not she'd be dismissed.
Did not have a consistent relationship from when I left college and came to Emory Law School here in Atlanta. But 8 to 10 years ago, just by happenstance, I ran into her. So she was in Atlanta.
You have been friends with Robin for 30-something years.
Did you hear my answer, madam?
Yes, and I'm asking if you've been friends with her for 30-something years.
I've known her for 30-something years. We certainly hung out and partied together in college. She was from the DC area. She would come home, we party together. Wasn't close, but she was certainly in the girlfriends that partied together. And then, like I said, I ran into her about 10 years ago in Atlanta, Georgia. So we didn't talk throughout that time period. I didn't see her. I didn't even know where she was. When I ran into her, I was surprised she was in Atlanta. And so, yes, I have known her probably since 1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as, have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not consider her a friend now. I think that she, there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think that she betrayed our friendship.
So let's narrow it down, the timeline now. So
I'm on Fonny's side, man. I don't know if she should be a district attorney, but this chick doesn't take shit. She's like, look, I don't care. I don't care if I get, if this entire thing, I went up against the former president of the United States. I'm trying to bring a RICO case against the former president of the United States. I don't care if it all goes down. This beats lying. And I just want to let you know that her ass is fat. For the record, I think she's a lying, smelly bitch. That's what I think she is. Just look, the disdain.
1990, 1991, but we have not maintained a consistent relationship that whole time.
For the last 10 years or 5, whatever you'd like to classify it as, have you been friends with her?
I have not spoken to Robin in over a year. I certainly do not consider her a friend now. I think that she, there's a saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And I think that she betrayed our friendship.
So let's narrow it down, the timeline now. So my questions are going to be from the time period of 2019 until she no longer was employed for you, the last time you all talked. So all of my next questions are just focused on that time frame, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Up until she left your office.
Yes, ma'am.
During 2019, you all were friends, correct?
Yes, we knew each other in 2019.
During 2020, you all were friends, correct?
We were friends during that time period.
During 2021, you all were friends, correct?
Yes.
And such good friends that when you needed a place to stay, you asked her if you could take over her lease.
That's a lie.
You did
That's
not
not
move
the-
into her apartment?
I
or her
did, but
condo?
that's not the way you characterize it is wrong.
I asked if you could take over her lease.
I did not ask if I could take over her lease.
Did you move into her apartment?
I moved into her condo in April of 21. The circumstances around that were that Robin met her husband. They wanted to move into another and separate place. She wanted to get rid of her condo. My father was living with me at the house. Because of this case and because of my stance on gangs, my life was being threatened regularly. My father urged me to leave our home. At the same time, as luck would have it, Robin wanted to give up her lease because she wanted to move in with this new man she met, who eventually became her husband. And so,
So she trusted her with her life.
circumstances worked, my dad was begging me to leave the house. He was afraid for me, afraid for his grandchildren. She wanted someone to take over her lease so that she didn't, have to pay a fee or get abandoned. And so I don't remember when, but probably March or April of 21, I moved in and take over her lease.
And did you pay her or did you pay the leasing agent?
No, I don't even know who the leasing agent was. I paid her.
You paid her. Did you pay her cash or did you use card?
There were some times that I would give her cash, but mostly I paid her via Cash App. That would be the most convenient thing. So I would not only give her rent, but then like when the utilities would come in, whatever the utility was, she might be like, I need $70, I need $100, whatever it was. And we never had a problem with money. Whatever she told me it was, I never asked to see a bill. I never questioned her. I just gave it to her.
What percentage would you say you paid cash versus Cash App?
Oh, the vast majority was Cash App. I don't know what percentage, I'm not going to guess that, but the vast majority was Cash App. But there would be times she would say, this bill came in at $70, here goes $70.
Did you have a monthly rent amount that you paid her?
I can't remember. It was $1,400, $1,500. I can't remember what it was. And it would vary, which I don't understand to this day. But like I said, I never questioned her.
When did you move out?
She said it was. That's what I paid.
I love it. She's like, and by the way, I think that this bitch might have fucked me on utilities. I always thought it was weird that the utilities were at the same price every month. I think this lady might have been skimming off me with utilities. Now that she's just fucking blew my whole shit up.
When did
I
you move out?
abruptly moved out in February, either late January or early February of 22.
Of 22.
Yes,
February 2022, is that what you said?
January.
Yeah,
February
sorry
22.
guys. I'll make
believe
sure
it
that
is
I put this in
January,
there.
But
Do not disturb.
I paid her half the rent of February of 22 is what I remember. And because I was offering to pay the whole rent, even though I didn't live there, I didn't think it was right. I ended up just paying her half the rent.
So that's after you moved out. You said you paid her half of that. Okay. And the time that you said you had to move out of your house because you were scared, did your dad stay there at your house?
My father was concerned. Yes, we were both concerned.
Okay. But he remained there.
My father was 80 years old. He would have been 79. He was scared to death of COVID. You have to go back to when this was. My father's an older man. I wanted him to move out. We had some discussions about him moving out. And what he decided was the risk of COVID was more dangerous than the risk of the people that were threatening. Typical man, more worried about his daughter and his grandchildren than his own safety. You'll get to meet him and you'll understand he doesn't scare too easily.
So your his grandkids were living at the house as well at that time?
Well, I don't know how old your children are, but when you have adult children, they leave and they come back. They leave and they come back. So there have been periods of time that they're there, they come, they do whatever they want to do. Children do what children do. As long as their mother has a house, they'll come to it. Unfortunately, now the threats because of this case have gotten so extreme. I just pay a mortgage and no one lives there.
And that's what I was
We're
gonna
live,
ask you.
by the
So
way,
you moved
for the
out
episode.
I think you said April 2021. You left your dad and your two kids at the house?
My dad and my two kids were not at the house.
They were not. Okay, so they didn't still live at your house.
My youngest daughter certainly did not live there.
Okay.
My oldest daughter would come back and forth. I can't say month for month when she was there or when she was not there. I know that she has been there post me moving out at this time.
Yeah,
no one's
sorry.
at my house.
Ashley is scheduling
So
things
at
with
some
me
point
right now.
after you moved out for the safety reasons, you're at least one of your
I don't know
children
why
did
Do
come
Not
back.
Disturb
Link
is
to
still.
the
Yeah.
relationship and the
Sure.
financial benefit.
Yes. So let's see. We were back at 2021. So you were still friends with Miss Yeardy then. Were you also friends with Mr. Bradley?
I've never been friends with Mr. Bradley.
You've never been friends with Mr. Bradley?
No, I don't consider us to be friends. I don't dislike Mr. Bradley, but I don't consider us to be friends.
Is he someone that you would have in your phone and you would message with?
I might have text messaged him.
Okay. Would you text message him and Mr. Wade on the same conversations?
I don't recall doing that, but if it happened, it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so that wouldn't surprise you, the three of you. Okay. How frequently would you think that the three of you would have texted?
Not very, I wouldn't think very often, but you're asking me to recall. I don't even know what time period you're asking me to recall, but I'm not going to speak to that because I just really don't know the answer to that. So I don't want to speculate as to how often that would happen. But it's not out of my practice to text two people on one text message. So if you told me that happened and showed it to me, it wouldn't surprise me, although I have no recollection of it.
But there would be some record of it in your phone, or the phone records would have some record of those texts.
Perhaps.
Talk about, you said that sometimes you paid Miss Yeardy cash.
I don't
When
think
you
I-
went,
I'm sorry.
when you went on vacation with Mr.
So, by the way, this is another big thing, right? Because this case hinges, or the case to dismiss Fani Willis hinges on whether or not she improperly benefited from the financial situation that she put her boyfriend in. So the two big things are, when did they start dating? And did she benefit financially? And so the case against Fani Willis hangs on two things. Number one, she lied in her disclosure about when they started dating. And two, that they went on a bunch of these vacations and that she didn't pay for anything on the vacations. So Fani Willis is saying, number one, I did not lie. We dated exactly when I said that we dated, which is within the area that it's like frowned upon, but not disqualifying for them to date in this scenario. No matter what, this is frowned upon. You're not going to avoid frowned upon. People are frowning, right? But not disqualifying. And that during these trips, and we're going to get into some of the comedy here, is her describing these trips. Some of these trips, she did pay her side of it. She paid him in cash. He testified and said that she did pay him in cash. So a lot of the questions that they are setting up there are, how often does she pay in cash? How often does she pay with Cash App? That kind of stuff. So here we go. We're going to get into the vacations.
Let's just go one by one. Let's start with the first one. What's the first time you went on vacation with Mr. Wade?
I think the first time we went on vacation was around April of 22. And it's a vacation is a stretch, but I'm trying to be comprehensive. I recall April of 22. His birthday is March the 18th. So that would have been his 49th birthday. I took him to like Tennessee for the day. I think we went to a museum. I think we might have stayed the night. I'm not sure. But I mean, Tennessee's kind of hard to call a vacation, but I just am trying.
Harry Lee Smith, will the rest of the trials be covered like this? If they're this entertaining, they will. This had me glued. I had so much shit to do yesterday. Yesterday, I had to do what was it? What was yesterday? Yesterday I got to wake up, do PX3 Extra, get Where Not Wrong posted. I still got to post the video, by the way. Then go out to the puppy, do the Great Night Patreon, Then we went out to lunch. It was a little lunch double date. Me, Ash, Brian, and Bon went out to lunch, came back, did DTNS, and then we had a dinner reservation right at 4:15. DTNS wraps at 4. We went right out to go do a Valentine's Day / birthday dinner at one of our favorite restaurants. In that time, every free moment is watching clips from this as it's airing live. So if the trials are this entertaining, we will indeed be watching them. Yes, we will.
Be inclusive. And it, like I said, I know it wasn't more than a day.
She didn't spend the night.
I think that we did. That's what I'm telling you.
Did we miss the Tennessee line? I want to hear the Tennessee line. I sent it to a bunch of my friends that live in Tennessee. I'm like, Tennessee catching fucking strays.
March the 18th. So that would have been his 49th birthday. I took him to like Tennessee for the day. I think we went to a museum. I think we might have stayed the night. I'm not sure. But I mean, Tennessee's kind of hard to call a vacation, but I just am trying to be inclusive. And it, like I said, I know it wasn't more than a day.
She didn't spend the night.
I think that we did. That's what I'm telling you. I think that there's a possibility that we stayed that night in April of 22.
Who paid for the hotel?
I think I did. It was his birthday.
And would you have used a credit card?
Probably maybe a debit.
Oh, no.
We're Drip Design, and we're on a journey.
Get
to
outta here,
enhance
Drip.
everyday fabrics to last longer and perform better.
When I started dating Mr. Wade, it was right around then. That
April 2022?
22, yes. It
2022.
was 20. You know, it's not like when you're in grade school and you send a little letter and it says, will you be my girlfriend? And you check it. I don't know the day that we started seeing each other, but it was early 22 is my recollection.
Yeah, no, a couple of my friends that I grew up with in South Florida have recently moved to Tennessee. So there's a lot of Tennessee jabs that happen for a bunch of Florida boys. Although I've been an expat to Florida for, geez, at this point, is it most of my life? Damn, if I lived away from Florida more than I lived in Florida, we're gonna have to do the math on that.
Okay, early 22. And you all went to Florida on vacation as well?
I don't recall going to Florida on vacation with him.
You never went to Florida with Mr. Wade?
When we went to get on the cruise ship, we went to Miami.
Okay, that's the only time that you went to Florida with him?
I think we went to Miami and spent the night. That's my recollection.
Okay.
I think we spent the night. That's my recollection. Okay. I think we spent one night so that we wouldn't miss the ship. That's my recollection of our
Paid
vacation.
for that hotel?
In Miami? I don't remember that.
And how'd you get to Miami?
We would have flown. And we've done that, so that I'm clear, we've done that twice. I think one time we stayed, and I honestly can't tell you.
All right, we actually
did we
watched this
stay
clip
when the-
before.
You have buddy someplace, it's for his 50th birthday. I consider that I took him to Belize. And I took him to Belize because, I don't want to discuss his personal business, but I'm happy Mr. Wade is still here with us. And I did 50 big, very big.
So still on that October Royal Caribbean cruise.
Low-key HIPAA violation here for Fonnie Willis. I don't want to disclose his personal business, but I'm glad he's still here. So we celebrated his birthday.
Even though he had a travel agent. I'm sorry.
For those of you who are just joining us right now, this is a testimony that riveted me yesterday, and it was Fonnie Willis, the district attorney of Georgia, who brought one of the 4 big cases against Donald Trump. She is also the center of the Young Thug RICO trial. Both of those cases are RICO cases, and she has been challenged, and the hearing yesterday was for her to defend why she should not be taken off this case, disqualified from her involvement in the Trump case, because the lead attorney in the Trump case is her boyfriend. That is not at dispute. That was not known when the case was brought, but it has since been agreed upon by everybody. The facts of this hearing were whether or not they were dating before she named him to that position, and whether or not she has benefited from the high pay that comes along with the lead attorney by way of various different vacations. This is a hearing that is ongoing today that could, if it goes the way that the Trump attorneys want it to, and it looked to be wobbly yesterday, could knock out 1/4 of the cases that are pending against Donald Trump. The January 6th, the overturning the election case in Fulton County.
Do me a favor? I don't know what cruise ship, what time. So if you'll help me and say October cruise with mama or the New Year's Eve trip with his sisters, I'll be.
All right, we already did that part.
I didn't ever make him produce receipts to me. Whatever he told me it was, I gave him his money back.
Isn't it true that he paid for the cruise and the flight on his credit card? I'm not asking about reimbursement or after. He used his credit card to buy the cruise and buy the flight, correct?
I have no idea how he paid for it, if it's a credit card, if it's a debit card, but certainly he called his cruise agent. You know, like how many people have a cruise agent? He calls his cruise agent, tells them where they want to go.
Yeah.
They tell him what's booked. You have to remember, he paid for that initial was me, him, and his mother.
And then after that cruise, you all flew to Aruba and spent a couple days in a hotel there, correct?
Right, and his mother.
Why is any of this relevant? It's relevant because I don't know if you've noticed, but a key element of the 2024 election is Donald Trump having 91 different charges against him. And this would knock out a significant portion of them if this case is not brought, or if this case is essentially, if it falls apart. If Fani Willis cannot be a part of this trial, then that means she either needs to resign, a new district attorney is appointed, and then that district attorney also has to bring this case, unlikely, or another Georgia county, another district attorney in a county that affected the same trial, then has to rebring this entire trial. They also have to decide whether or not it's a RICO trial, which is a very specific kind of trial that Fani Willis decided to bring here. So this has a big material effect on the 2024 election. If we agree that Donald Trump being charged for things is a big part of this election, then this hearing, which again, let me point out for folks who didn't know, this trial, right? This trial, Fani Willis was not supposed to testify. She testified above the agreement of her counsel. She just walked into the courtroom and said, I'm going to testify now. This is extraordinary. This is extraordinary.
Was not happy.
He
that we left her
initially paid
behind.
for that. He initially paid for that.
For Aruba, yes, ma'am.
So let's talk about both of those. I know he initially paid for it. Did you pay him back?
For the cruise and for Aruba, yeah, I gave him his money before we ever went on that trip.
You gave him cash before you ever went on the trip?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you got cash to pay him back on these trips, would you go to the ATM?
No, lady.
You would not go to the ATM?
No.
Okay. So Fulton County pays you direct deposit, I assume?
Yes, Fulton County and the state of Georgia both pay me direct deposits.
Okay. So the cash that you would pay him, you wouldn't get it out of the bank?
I have money in my house.
You have money in your house. So it was just money that was there.
When you meet my father, he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times. Now, I don't know why this old black man feels like that, but he does. When we were growing up, my daddy had 3 safes in the house. So my father bought me a lockbox, and I always keep cash in the house. Now, I don't do it to the degree that my father would do it, so he would probably be ashamed with me. But I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. When it's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally.
This is something else because, again, she did not prepare for this. She came into the courtroom and testified. So part of what is happening here is she's like saying things that are not carefully crafted. Like if you were to put together a testimony for something like this, and so this is something else that came up, is that she says, okay, well, where did the cash come from? She's like, well, when I was running for office, I took a bunch of cash out for my campaign and I kept it in my safe in cash.
We have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from.
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. No. It's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
Do you know which job it came from? Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period that's probably in there.
You don't
It
know
could have, what do you mean I don't know where it came from? I
I
absolutely
understand the situation. We can move on.
Okay, thanks. Same with Aruba. You don't know where that cash came from either, right?
Ma'am, you are mischaracterizing my testimony greatly. I'm not going to allow you to mischaracterize my testimony. I know that I keep money in my house. The amounts of money I gave Mr. Wade, it was never that serious. I don't think I've ever handed him more than $2,500 in a reimbursement. So we're not talking about $20,000 in cash. I don't have $20,000 in cash right now. The most I ever gave him, I know I gave him $2,500 when we went to Belize because we went to one hotel and then we went to a second hotel. That $2,500, I actually.
All right, so why did she do this? She was not required to. Here's the reason why she was mad. She was mad because a friend of hers that worked in her office said that she was dating this attorney before Willis says that she was doing it. That's going to be a big part of this. She was mad at that friend, and she's already taken shots at the friend. Her boyfriend, who may or may not be her boyfriend anymore, also took some shots, and she's about to take some shots at him in this testimony.
Him while we were still in Belize. I know that the Aruba trip, the one that you described with his mom, I think I gave him about $2,000 for that trip for like total.
His mom went to Aruba with you?
The Aruba trip. So I consider that to be one trip. So we got off of a cruise ship and then we went to Aruba, which is why I cannot remember is that the time that we had to stay in Miami to wait for the flight for Aruba. So I consider that one trip that we didn't like come back to Atlanta and leave. We flew down to Miami. We got on a cruise ship. We spent a couple of days with his mama. We came back to Miami. When we came back to Miami, either that day or the next day, we flew to Aruba. We spent a few days in Aruba and we came back. That was really one trip. Even though we went two places, it was one trip.
So let's talk about the California trip.
They went on a lot of vacations. This is a lot of vacations. I think I was, in my understanding of this case, and I did not do exhaustive research on this, but in my understanding of it, they were like, a few, like, I don't know, they're busy. They're busy lawyers. There's a lot of vacations. And she didn't consider Tennessee a vacation. For the record, shots fired. Tennessee, you're not a vacation.
Is that when you were moving your daughter out to California? when you all went, or did you have 2 trips to California?
My daughter doesn't live in California.
Did she ever live in California?
I'm not discussing to you the location of my child.
So how many times did you go with Mr. Wade to California?
Once.
And you all stayed in Napa Valley and he paid for the plane tickets and the hotel?
He paid for the plane tickets and the hotel.
And what did you pay for on that trip?
I gave him much less cash that time, probably $400 or $500, and then I paid for a bunch of stuff. I think we did 2 different wine tours that you do, which are pretty expensive. I think I bought him. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose. I bought him a bottle of wine.
That was one of the iconic lines. One of the iconic lines. I'm on Fonny's side. I don't know if she should be district attorney, but I want her to be my friend.
I think we did 2 different wine tours that you do, which are pretty expensive. I think I bought him. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose. I bought him a bottle of wine while we were there, and the sippings that you do. I can't remember how many, like 4 or 5.
I like Grey
places
Goose.
You go. I remember we went to this place that they do pairings. That was the most expensive thing that I think that we did while we were there. So they would pair champagne, chocolate, and caviar. It was a 3, and it was like 3.
Imagine vacation shaming somebody. Look, I like vacations. I tell y'all about all my vacations. I usually do about 1 a year. But then again, I do a lot of traveling for business. I did work during my vacation. I'm still doing podcasts. I don't think it's vacation shaming. I think it's a material part of this situation to know how many vacations they went on, because the question is whether or not she improperly benefited.
Different things, Sweden, Russia, someplace else. I'll make that up. But that was the most expensive thing we did that trip, and I paid for that.
You pay cash?
For us doing that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that trip did not cost me a lot of money. I might have took like $750 in cash on me because we weren't gone very long.
I'd only asked if you paid in cash. I don't need to know the amounts.
When I travel, I always take cash.
And is the cash that you keep in your house, or do you keep it at the condo that you were living in?
So
I'm saying that it's. I didn't say it seems like a lot of vacations. I said that they went on a lot of vacations because in my understanding of this case, it was more than what my expectation was. I was expecting like 2 or 3, and they have now described 4 or 5. Just saying, it's more than what I expected from my understanding of the case.
At that point, it wouldn't be at my house.
Not saying it's a bad amount. I'm just saying it's more than I thought.
The money would be wherever I laid my head. So I wouldn't leave the money at the house. So if I was unclear, no, money's going to be where I stay.
How much did you pay for your trip to Panama?
To where?
Panama, I believe.
I didn't go to Panama.
I may have the location wrong.
I never went to Panama.
So after
Wade went to Panama with his frat brother.
Oh, he went to Panama with his frat brothers. So tell me about, let's see. So I want to make sure I've got them. I've got Belize. You already covered Belize. You covered the.
So let me tell you our real trips. In October, we went on the cruise with his mom. We got back from the cruise with his mom and we went to Aruba. I consider that one trip. Second trip, New Year's Eve, we went on a cruise to the Bahamas. That's the second trip. I want to make sure I get this right. Third trip, 100% on me. I think he might have spent $200 on that entire trip. We went to Belize. That was my trip. That was, his 50th. And then Napa Valley, we went around May. I don't know the dates, but it seems to me like it was close to Mother's Day.
And those are the only trips?
So that the record is complete. I can remember one time driving to, where were we? South Carolina, and we met my sister for lunch with her man.
When was
that? I don't know, but we didn't stay the night there. But I guess people would consider that a trip if you drive somewhere and you come back. That was insane because it was like 5 hours to drive. We ate lunch and we drove right back. I can remember driving to some little town in Georgia. I don't even know where I was. I had never been there before or after. There's some boat you can get on over to, and they're like a slave thing. If that gives anyone any reference, we didn't do that. I remember doing that. I remember driving one time to Charlotte. We had lunch with one of my very close girlfriends. And again, we drove to Charlotte, met my girlfriend for lunch, and drove right back. So that's a trip. We didn't stay the night there, but I just want to be complete in my testimony. We drove someplace, had lunch, drove back. I don't remember another driving someplace distant for lunch and coming back to Charlotte to see a girlfriend, to meet my sister in South Carolina. We went by ourselves when I told you about that remote place in Georgia. We could have driven someplace else and had lunch and came back, but that's all that comes to my recollection right now. There could have been another place we drove and had lunch. My security team was very clear to me. I'm not to be out and about in Atlanta without them. And so for me to do something just very normal that a normal person would get to do, if they weren't prosecuting this case, I got to drive 4 hours to do it.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Your security detail, did they take you to and from your house?
So I haven't been able to enjoy my home.
Condo, I'm sorry.
Since March of
where you lay your head. Did they take you to and from where you lay your head?
99% of the time.
Would they take Mr. Wade to and from wherever you laid your head?
That has never in the history of ever happened, ever, okay?
Your security team has never taken him?
From my house? That's a lie.
I'm asking if they've ever taken him anywhere.
And I'm telling you that that's never happened.
So your security team has never taken Mr. Wade
My security team has never taken Mr. Wade from any place where I have lived and brought him here. Never, not once, not ever.
Have they ever taken the two of you together?
To where?
Anywhere.
Well, we've left this building and gone to lunch, but I go to lunch so rarely that is a very rare occasion. I am sure, and let me be clear, it wouldn't just be Mr. Wade. So I'm sure my security team has taken me to lunch. Probably been a time I've left here 7 o'clock, gone to get something to eat. And I don't even know that they would have taken him or if he would have driven himself, but they've taken me to do that. But we're talking very few, very far in between. Most days I don't even eat lunch. And when I do, it's because my assistant has heated up some bag, something, and I eat through meetings and eat in my office. It's not a practice of mine to go to lunch.
During the time period that you were dating, would your security team ever take you two together anywhere?
No.
Never.
If there was a lunch that occurred that I just described, if there was a meal that occurred that I just described, anything outside of that, and it needs to be very clear.
So I'm not a lawyer, but what they're trying to do is either set up the fact that there is some point in which the security took them, blah, 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 and these will be part of final arguments or whatever to the judge.
Not often. Once, twice. Because I want to be over-inclusive, I'm saying once or twice. I'm not certain that it happened, but I'd rather be over-inclusive with you.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
And, well, no, look. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was, do you have any problem?
I object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
And I'm not, no, I'm not dealing with privilege. What we had offered to put them in camera for the court to review. And I just want to know if she has any
That's not
problem.
something you deal with a witness.
Okay, you have to file as part of your job something called the income and financial disclosure report, correct?
That's correct.
And you filed your first one. So you filed 2 to date, is that right?
Is it 2 or 3? I probably would have filed 21, 22, and maybe I haven't filed 23 yet, because isn't it due like June of the next year?
April, I believe. So you filed, let's see, you filed your first one, it looks like April 15th, 2022, and your second one, April 17th, 2023. Does that sound familiar?
That I don't remember the dates, but you're an officer of the court. I'm gonna hope you're telling the truth now.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
Thank you. I already gave the state.
Dude, the Fulton County Court, by the way, between this and the Young Thug trial, it is all over the place.
The exhibit 20 and 21. If you take a look at those.
Can somebody bring me some? Yeah. Guys are getting a little old.
All right, now that the adrenaline's worn off, do you think that she's regretting doing it? Because that was my biggest thing in looking at this or watching this video is it's like she comes in and she is so fired up. And she's like, I have to testify. This is something that I absolutely have to do. You've been lying on me. You've been saying things. You are counter to democracy, blah, 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 blah. But now she's talked for a while, right? How far are we into this? We are 40 minutes in, right? Like at a certain point, do you think that there's a little bit of like, did keeping it real go wrong here?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so
ma'am.
those are the ones that you filed.
This looks like me for sure. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Judge, we'd move to admit 20 and 21.
I think you need to delineate which one's which
20
one's which.
is 2021, so it accounts for the time period, Your Honor, January the 1st, 21 through December the 31st, 2021. That is Defendant's Exhibit 20. Defendant's Exhibit 2021, it accounts for the time period, January the 1st, 2022 through December the 1st of 2022.
All right. Any objection to exhibits 20 and 21
Nope,
No,
sorry.
from other counsel? Admitted without objection.
When did your personal relationship with Mr. Wade end?
Our personal relationship ended in this year. So let's be very clear so that we don't mix words. I don't want to mix words in here. Mr. Wade is my friend right now. Mr. Wade, I would say, has been my friend since 2020. I think he started out as like a mentor and a professional colleague. He became my friend and somebody that I really respected. I feel very indebted to Mr. Wade for taking on the task of this job. And he is certainly my friend and one of the people that I respect the most. So if you ask about a personal relationship, I consider myself to have a personal relationship right now, Mr. Wade. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Anna Cross. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Mr. Abadi. I consider myself to have a personal relationship with Andrew Evans.
Okay, let me just clarify that.
I have a personal relationship with him as we speak right now.
A romantic
I don't think that's what you're asking. I think that's what
romantic
you're asking.
relationship. When did your romantic relationship with Mr. Wade end? When did it end?
Me and Mr. Wade, we are good friends. My respect for him has grown over these 7 weeks of attacks. We are very good friends. I think, but for these attacks, it would have been a friendship that as life goes, he would have stopped having. I think that you have cemented that we'll be friends till the day we die.
Right.
Let's.
Could we just have an answer to the question?
I can handle Mr. Seda. Let's have it.
She asked about a personal relationship.
She asked when the romantic relationship ended. That's the question.
It's sometime in, I'd say late summer of 2023. So I don't believe me and.
Oh, come on.
Hey, Vinny, where'd you get that shirt?
I'll tell you, if we keep watching this shit, we are going to need YouTube Premium.
Okay.
And so this is what you're really asking about. This is the salaciousness of all of this, right?
No, I'm just
when
asking
you're
about your romantic relationship. When you stopped dating?
I
Asking.
I think that me and Mr. Wade, so he's a man, he probably would say June or July. I would say we had a tough conversation in August. So that men in relationships at the end of physical intimacy, women in relationships when that tough conversation takes place.
And where, when did he come to, I guess the condo, I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment. Would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo. So I'm trying to use those terms.
So but there's been more. See, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I
Ms.
need
Merchant, if you
to,
could ask a more precise question.
yes, please give me the time period. that we're
Mr.
talking
Wade
about.
visits you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this, let me tell you which one you lied in, right here. I think you lied right here.
No, I'm gonna.
No, this is the truth.
Judge,
And
this
it
is,
is a lie. It
We're
is
gonna-
a lie.
Ms. Willis?
You see.
Mr. Sadot, thank you. We're going to take 5 minutes. Be back in 5.
How often did Mr. Wade visit you?
Dude,
At
had to hit the timeout. Had to hit the timeout. Bonnie was getting fired up.
where you were living between 2019 and 2021?
So you want to start with the lie that he lived with me in South Fulton in 2019, a home he's never been to? That's one lie you told in your
Judge,
document.
No,
You,
Judge, I didn't ask her about that.
Ms. Merchant, I want you to ask a very precise question. I think she's saying and answering that he did not live with her. So why don't we break that up into smaller
Ever.
parts?
I didn't ask about living.
but you put in your, while we're talking about professionalism, no, while we're talking about professionalism, she put in 3 different documents
Well,
he
she'll
lived
have
with me
full opportunity to respond.
In
and
2000
filed that with the court.
The 5 minutes didn't
2019,
settle nothing.
He's never been to South Fulton. In 2019, I lived in South Fulton. He has never been to my residence in 2019, ever, not once.
In
2020?
2019, he's never been to your residence, any place.
I lived in my home in South Fulton before I started getting the threats that were here, a house I paid for with my own sweat and tears. I'm no longer able to live there. But in 2019, I did. And in the 2 months of 2019 that I knew Mr. Wade, 3 months, the beginning of October, all of November, and all of December, Mr. Wade never came to my house in South Fulton. Let me help you out. I lived there in 2020. He never came to my house in 2020, let alone live with me, as you put falsely in these documents. In the first 3 months of 2021, when I could still
Oh, sorry. I forgot to change the title. Never mind. Disregard the title, DJ Dub.
enjoy my home, Mr. Wade never came to South Fulton, and it is certainly a lie that he lived with me.
So in 2020, so you said 2019, 2020, did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you
He has
resided?
never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
2020, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay, I don't understand. You're about to give me that. In 2020, I lived in South Fulton.
Okay.
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
All right.
And at my home in
We're
South
gonna clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it
Miss,
there.
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, that's, I'm going to have to caution. This is going to be my first time I have to caution. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike the testimony. So I need to break this down. Ms. Merchant's question, I believe, is asking whether you lived anywhere other than South.
I'll tell you what, she came after the judge a couple times. And this is the first time that the judge, and this is an awkward situation. Can you imagine you're a judge and you gotta tell the district attorney of the county you're a judge in to settle down? That's awkward.
I did not live anywhere but South Fulton, Georgia in 2020. That is before I began my prosecution of this case, and it was my plan to only live there.
Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo that you leased from Miss Yurdi?
He visited that condo, yes.
He did.
Yes.
Did he ever spend the night at that condo?
No.
Just visited.
Yeah, but he did visit for sure.
Did you ever go out to eat together, other than the lunches you talked about,
In
during
2020?
2019 or 2020?
I would think that we probably went to lunch, but it wouldn't have been, let me think, 2019. I'm going to say, I don't know. I'm going to say we.
So again, what we are looking for here, or at least, I got to get my numbers right. The issue here is whether or not she was dating him before she says she was dating him, which was after she named him to be the lead attorney in this Trump RICO case. And then whether or not she materially benefited from the vacations that they took as a couple, because Mr. Wade was being paid a lot of money to be this lead attorney. We're not going to watch this much more. I want to see if in the next 15 minutes, one of the lines that I found incredibly fascinating pops up here.
We broke bread someplace in 2019. I don't remember it, but it seems like we would have broke bread sometime in 2019. So I'm going to say yes, although I have no recollection. But it seems to me like I go out to eat and drink with pretty much everyone. So I'm going to say yes.
So outside of the vacations that we've already talked about, did you ever go out to dinner with Mr. Wade?
I mentioned to you that
I'm going to object as to what time period. Like, we're asking very vague questions. I thought we were treating the witness as hostile on the 6/11. We're no longer doing that. So we're going to go back and forth. We need to be more specific with our questions if we're going to treat her as hostile.
All right, Ms. Merchant, it's not so much. I think you can elect between leading and open-ended questions, but I think we are still wondering about, and I think we need to get back on track of focusing on the financial benefit or the relationship.
And my next question about if you did, who paid?
Well, you know, Trump people, how dare she have an inappropriate relationship? It's about whether or not she is going to be disqualifiable from this case. That's what we're talking about here. Is she disqualifiable from this case? That's it. That's all that matters here.
When you went out to dinner?
He paid, I paid.
You both paid.
Okay, so let me be real clear. We didn't say, oh, the bill is $102. You give $51, I'll give $51. I don't operate like that with my girlfriends. I don't operate like that with anyone. He caught the bill, I caught the bill, whomever.
Did you ever pay him through Cash App?
No.
You only ever paid him through cash?
Well, yes. We're talking about, I'm very confused
You've
now.
never given Mr. Wade money through Cash App?
No.
The only money you've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract, so that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened? No, we're gonna answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did.
Oh, she got her flag pin set. Look at that. Her flag pin in the recess. She got her flag pin set.
So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
And I will ask you about the contract in a minute. I asked you about cash. Did you ever pay him anything? And I'm trying to qualify my questions. I'm not talking about the contract with Fulton County that was paid. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about outside of that. Did you ever pay him anything other than cash?
I've only given cash a few times in the course of what we're talking about.
So you
If we would go to dinner,
Let her finish her answers.
if we would go to dinner, I wouldn't give him cash because he paid for dinner or I paid for dinner. I've given him cash only a few times in life, probably 4.
Okay.
Probably the most money I've ever handed him is $2,500. The least amount of money I've handed him, probably between $500 and $1,000.
You never wrote him a check?
Ma'am, I don't have checks.
Okay. So you have no proof of any reimbursement for any of these things because it was all cash, right?
The testimony of one witness is enough to prove a fact.
So my
Are you
question was,
telling
do
me
you
that
have
I'm
any
lying to you?
proof?
Is that what you're intimating right here?
I'm asking if you have any proof that you paid him any of these
The
monies.
proof is what I just told you.
You have no written proof. Is that correct?
So I have probably some transactions like in Belize. I probably spent $500.
Do I think she's heated? I think she wants to take this white bitch by the hair. I think she wants to beat the shit out of this woman. I think she wants to beat the Becky out of this lady. I swear. I think she wants to melt her with her heat rays. What I wonder is that, like, there's these moments where she has this clarity, and I'm like, oh, is she like, oh, is this, damn, okay, do I got to get my facts right or whatever? And then but by and large, she is all attack. She is all gas, no brakes. Because this moment, she knows she doesn't want to put on the record, no, I don't have any physical proof. She's going to challenge and challenge and challenge and challenge and challenge.
On my card in Belize. I spent 800, I can't remember, $900 on each of our tickets to go to Belize. I did the $700. I probably got some minor expenses in Aruba that would be on a card. But for the most part, for those trips, other than
if she's disqualified from the case, won't they get another? What impact does it have on the Trump case? No, this is like a for real situation. Because either she, I think, would have to step down as the district attorney to have somebody else bring this case, or, which I don't think she's going to do, or another county would have to bring it. But either way, this thing is delayed. And either way, someone else is going to have to agree to bring a RICO case in the same way that she brought it. From what I've read about this, if she's disqualified, this is a big deal. This seriously injures or kills this case because of her nature in the center of it, and because of her decisions to structure this case the way it is structured.
so the 2 cruises, I gave him money for those before we ever left, because they were pre-booked.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know for sure, Fournier, about whether or not if she's disqualified, it basically disqualifies the DA's office as long as she runs it. I think it disqualifies her from overseeing or being involved in it, which essentially does that, right? Because you do need somebody bringing the case. What happens to Young Thug's case, I don't believe that it affects the Young Thug case.
Let me answer.
Well, the question was if you had any written proof. And so
So I've answered you that I've had written
we
proof.
can move to
of-
the next question. If you've answered if you had any written proof, and that was my question.
I want to make sure that we're clear that for the 2 cruises.
Judge,
and that's
I
the
asked if
cruise
she gave
plus
him written
Aruba.
proof.
We're not going to talk over each other. Ms. Merchant, she answered your question, so we can ask the next question. Ms. Willis, Ms. Cross will have plenty of opportunities to let you clarify your answers when it's her turn.
Thank you, Judge. Knowing your role as district attorney, you know that public funds are scrutinized and money is scrutinized and things like that. You
I've
understand.
never, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You understand you're under a microscope. You have reporting requirements, all of those types of things. You have no record other than your testimony of the money that you've given Mr. Wade.
You've already asked that question. Let's keep going.
When you took office, you had a tax lien of $4,600. Did you pay that with cash when you made that tax lien whole?
I probably paid through,
Knoch, highly unlikely she gets DQ'd. Defense would have to show conflict of interest. They aren't alleging it. Well, I think they are alleging it, right? They are alleging that she has a conflict of interest, both in terms of, well, number one, they want to nail her on lying on her disclosure, which is another thing. But the conflict of interest would be her getting material benefits, which is why the money and who paid for what during the vacations are at the issue here.
however you pay.
Okay. So, but you were saying that you had amounts of cash. You still had that lien in 2022 when you were dating Wade and going on these trips. So the cash that you gave him, that could have been used to pay this tax lien off?
You gonna tell me how to pay my
I'm gonna
bills?
object. This is not relevant as it relates to Robert today.
Ms. Merchant,
Oh, look at that.
are you trying to
Joe Manchin announcing he's just going to be a rich guy. He will not run for president. No labels, no chance.
establish that she was insolvent in some way?
I definitely was trying to establish that she did not have these mass amounts of cash that she's talking about. Yes.
All right. Re-ask the question.
You had a tax lien in 2022, $4,600.
Did you say I did?
And you did not use this cash that you had to reimburse Mr. Wade to pay that off, correct?
No.
Okay.
I went shopping too when I didn't pay it all.
And you talked about, you gave a lot of interviews to some authors and what's called finding the books, right?
I would not characterize it as a lot. I probably have spoken to them
You know, I'm
2 or
gonna
3
object.
times.
My question is relevant as to
I think it's already come up that its finances are discussed in the book. I'll overrule that.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson, you can continue your answer.
what came up with Mr. Wade as it relates to hearsay statements that he was asked about in relation to what Ms. Willis may or may not have said in relation to an author. So it's not relevant to the testimony that's occurring at this time.
I think Ms. Merchant has said that inside the book, she also makes a statement as to her own finances, and that's at issue.
So you gave interviews to the authors of this book, correct?
Once or twice.
Okay. And,
Just to be comprehensive. I don't know if it was 3 times, 2 or 3 times, I think.
You were quoted in the book, and I will give you a chance to say if this is a misquote. You were quoted, when they asked you about if you wanted to run for office for DA, you were quoted, "I really don't want to be financially effed up again." Do you remember saying that?
So what that refers to,
My question first is if you remember saying that.
I remember saying something similar to that, but I would like to be able to explain what that's in reference to. That's not in reference to anything else. It was a huge sacrifice to be district attorney in Fulton County, huge. I was doing just fine. I had a municipal court judgeship that was paying me $100-something thousand a year, and like you got to show up twice a week. Easiest thing I've ever done in life. I also had private clients that were paying me to represent them, so I was able to have a law practice and that. Raising 2 daughters by myself, there were times in life where things were hard, and so I was telling people, I don't really run for DA. I don't want to run for DA. I'm in a good position right now. I got this easy job that I enjoy, being the chief judge of the city of South Fulton. I'm making money at the law firm, and I'm not sure that I want to make this sacrifice. And why does it always have to be me? Eventually, I prayed. I think that I was the appropriate person. I think that I did that. So when you're referring to that, what I'm saying is, why should I make a sacrifice again? And what I was not talking about is being district attorney. Once you get elected district attorney, you're in a fine financial position. I make over $200,000 a year. What I was talking about is I ran for judge. When I ran for judge, I took $50,000 of my personal money out of my retirement. And that money ended up being lost. And I know when you bet on yourself, you're going to have to bet money on yourself. And so what I was talking about was,
seems like the kind of lady you meet at the Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas. It starts off a lot of fun, but by the end of the trip, you regret every decision you've made leading you here. There is definitely a little bit of like the fun person you meet during the poolside bar at like 2, and then you're leaving dinner and you see that there's a big commotion because somebody threw a glass, and it's like, oh, it's the lady from the bar. There we go.
Not wanting to go through the personal financial expense of running for office. By no means did I think that I was going to be financially in a bad position once I won. Let's talk about what I was up against, because it's important to understand that comment. I had a district attorney who had been here for 24 years. People, it's very relevant as to what my mindset was about this. So I'm trying to answer your question. So what I was saying is
tailored solely to finance.
Right, but it is about my finances. If I didn't, nobody put me in this seat. So I had already run for office once. I had spent $50,000 of my own money running, and it was vamoose, nothing. And so when I'm talking to those offers, I'm talking about the contemplation of the sacrifice of the run, not the sacrifice of once you become DA. The odds were against me. I was likely going to lose the election based on who I was running against. So that needs to be in the appropriate context.
Isn't it true that the authors also wrote, and you can dispute this if you'd like, that you were broke after that race?
The 2018 race.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a hard race. I wasn't broke like I didn't have any. So broke is relative to depending where you are, but that hurt to lose that $50,000. So I'm sure my mental mindset was like, I just gave $50,000 away.
Right. So they characterized it from their conversations with you that you were broke. You had poured your own money into the campaign, and you weren't able to pay your own bills because of your clients couldn't pay their bills to you, and you had a paltry array of family and asset forfeiture cases. It says you were trying to make it month to month. Is that an accurate depiction of your financial situation at that point?
I would want to read that, but I don't remember clients not being able to pay their bills. Or
May I approach, Judge?
You can.
You may.
Page 13.
I have not read this book.
Even if what they're alleging is true, it's different. It's a kickback. Both their interests are served by Trump being convicted. Yeah, that's not the. It is whether or not their interests are in line with the public, whether or not she is doing wrong by the public that she was elected to serve. That's the disqualifiable issue, as I understand it. Old Bustios. No, she did talk about how much she does use Cash App. She just did not use Cash App with her then boyfriend. She does use Cash App. What they are trying to do is say, okay, well, if you use Cash App, then you can show us Cash App receipts. Where if you just handed over cash, then there is no record.
So like this fact here, her ex-husband Fred had run into a financial, I have no information
I
about
didn't
that.
ask you about that. I just asked about if what they represent from their interviews with you, that you were broke and that you had clients that weren't able to pay their bills.
Can you show me where that is? Because this is where you put the tab, so that's where I read.
Broke, couldn't pay their bills.
Yeah, I'm sure I characterize myself as broke as leaving that $50,000. I don't know that I had her nascent law practice at poultry rep.
Well, you just
I didn't have.
Ms. Merchant.
I testified I had a law practice. So this is not correct. I'm sure it's just, I didn't have any asset forfeiture cases. So I had one case where they had took one of my clients' money at the airport. I don't know if that's what they're I don't know. Poultry array, I did have family law cases. I guess that's what they're talking about. And clients.
Yeah, Navalny dead in Russia. Who would have seen that coming?
So my question was just if this was a fair and accurate representation where it says you were trying to make it month to month at that point in time.
No, I don't think that is actually a fair and accurate representation, but I am certain that after the 2018 election, I'm still not really happy about having given up that $50,000.
You know when you paid your tax lien?
I don't.
You don't? Do you know if you paid it?
I know I've paid some taxes. I don't know. I don't want to speculate.
Did you tell anyone at Fulton County Board of County Commissioners about your relationship with Mr. Wade?
Here we go. Oh,
And
no.
would walk up to me and just be like, "What the f is in your mug?" And I would just tell them, "It's mud."
No.
Did you disclose your relationship to anybody at Fulton County?
No, I don't think so.
And as the chief law enforcement officer of Fulton County, I assume that you're familiar with the county code and ordinances?
I've said we're not going to cover that in this hearing, Ms. Merchant.
I'm sorry, Judge?
I think we said we weren't going to cover the county regulations.
Okay, and I won't. Let me ask you this then. So are you aware that you're required to disclose any relationship with someone that you contract with in Fulton County?
I'm gonna object to the court's prior ruling that you made this morning.
Would this be different because it's a potential for impeachment?
Yes.
What did you ask me?
Ms. Merchant, if you could re-ask the question.
Okay. Are you aware that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused with state constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
Okay, so it's your understanding that you don't have a duty to disclose the
She's
relationship.
answered that question. Let's keep going.
Did you keep track of this cash that you paid him at all?
What are you talking? I don't understand.
Did you keep track? Did you keep a ledger? Did you keep track of it?
So I've only given him cash, as I mentioned, 3 or 4 times. There's no ledger. This is friends handing money off to each other.
So the answer is no, you didn't keep
I think
track.
you've already asked whether there was any written proof whatsoever, and she's
Yes.
answered that.
Okay.
So we've covered this. Let's move on.
There's a clip that I saw that I'm where she goes off on Wade and basically says that the only thing that Wade thinks a woman is good for is to make him a sandwich.
When you suggested that Mr. Roman's.
That's what I'm trying to get
was
to.
racially motivated.
We already said we're not talking about the forensic misconduct that's been alleged.
And just so the record is clear, I don't believe I said that his motion was racially motivated, so I don't want that to stay there. I've never said his motion was racially motivated, so that should not be
Melissa,
true.
I
if
think
she
it would
wrote
be
that.
best if we don't need to go down that road. We're going to save that for argument.
You once said that.
Yes,
you
we
would
did.
not
We
engage
did
with
bring up
some
during
personal
her
relationship with
campaign
anyone
that part of the cash she had on hand was from her campaign.
An employee?
Anyone that worked for Fulton County.
I think I said an employee.
Okay. So that's the qualification you give an employee. You wouldn't.
I think that's a statement that I made. So if you want to quote me accurately.
So It's your position because Mr. Wade was not an employee, or it's your position he wasn't an employee, correct?
Mr. Wade is not an employee, and he will tell you that over and over again.
Just 1 moment, Judge. I'm sorry, the statement, just so I make sure I accurately quote you. What you said was you won't sleep with people who work under you. Do you not consider Mr. Wade working under you?
I consider Mr. Wade to be an agent.
An agent?
All
Yeah,
right.
an appointee is what I really think of him as.
Your point, whatever merit it has, Ms. Merchant, is on the record.
Thank you.
Next question. All right. Do we need any moments in a minute? Mr. Sadow.
Yeah, I'm ready to go, Your Honor.
All right.
I'm going to try to ask you questions that you can actually answer.
Oh, Jesus. We know this one's going to start. This one's going to get good. By the way, I'm furious that none of these dudes are Foghorn Leghorn. I wanted at least one of them to be like, well, now, little miss, I got a few questions for you to answer.
Having to explain, okay?
Yes, sir. My comprehension skills are pretty good, so we should do all right.
We shall soon see. If I heard you correctly, you moved into what I will refer to as the Yurti condo in either March or April of 2021. Is that correct?
Sometime between late February and April. Yes, I don't. Just so we're clear, yes. But in that time period, you're in the ballpark. We're in the ballpark.
And is that Yurti condo, would you say that it is in Hapeville?
It is in Hapeville, yes, sir.
And you moved in there for safety reasons?
My father, yes, I moved in there. We were concerned. My father was terribly concerned about me continuing to live at the house. And so they were clear. People came to my house at 5 o'clock in the morning about the police brutality cases, saying I was going to have a wake-up call. There were security threats due to gang cases, and there were concerns due to the that was at the very beginning of this, looking into that. And so for all of those reasons and what was happening, my father wanted me out the house, and begrudgingly I left.
Okay, so the answer to the question was a yes for safety reasons, correct?
Those were all of the things that caused the safety concerns.
George, I can see you.
I'm sorry.
I'm not questioning whether they are or are not safety concerns. I just asked that you moved into this condo, the RT condo,
Right.
for safety reasons, right?
Yes,
Okay. At the time that you moved into the condo, be it from February to April of 2021,
yes,
was your father still living in your house?
right, because my father,
That's
yeah,
all I ask you.
but I get to explain the answer, sir.
I don't know if there's an explanation. If I ask you, was your father still living at your house?
Oh, he's trying to
the
rattle
answer
her.
is either he was or he wasn't.
Yes, but you are going to get to argue at the end of this, as we both
I'm
know.
not gonna argue
And
anything.
I
I'm
would
gonna
like to
ask-
be able to explain why.
I'm
And
gonna,
so, yes, because my father is an older gentleman, he was worried about COVID and he stayed.
Ms. Willis, I'm gonna have to say that's second time.
Oh,
Whenever we have to put a pause, we stop testifying, okay? You'll have a chance to explain yourself. The question was whether your father was not staying there at the time, and you're clarifying that in your answer as well. You can have a brief clarification, but it shouldn't be something that reaches well beyond the question. All right, Mr. Sadow, you can re-ask the question. We'll see where it takes us.
okay, thank you. Was your father still living in your house at the time you moved to what I would refer to as a Yurti condo?
Yes, sir, he was, due to his concerns related to COVID.
Okay. The safety concern was that there was potential danger at your house. Is that correct?
Yes, my address had been exposed, so yes, there was concerns about potential danger at my house.
Okay, so anyone staying at your house in the time period after you went to the Yurti condo was still in danger, correct?
Yeah, well, no, he did.
I think you have to, it's your attorney, Ms. Willis. Sorry, Mr. Bott, your objection is speculation
Yes.
to the question of
Speculation.
oh, she's backdooring her own attorney.
still in danger at her condo,
I can,
Just let her answer the question.
or Mr. Sadow wants to rephrase.
No, yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
was able to
I've got
understand it.
I've got the objection and then I have,
I'll withdraw the objection. You can move forward.
okay.
So, and I don't remember the question, so I can answer it.
But you can, now that the objection's been withdrawn, can you try to answer that question?
Yes,
There's still a safety concern
I was.
for people staying at the house.
Yes, I was very concerned about my father still living at the house. However, if you have dealt with an older gentleman, he was not leaving the house, despite my urging him that I thought he should leave as well. He did not want to leave the house because he was particularly worried at his age about COVID. But that became I don't want to say I was not happy with that decision of my father's, but I can't ultimately make him leave. And he stayed there too long, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. During that period that you left to go to the Yerty condo,
Yeah.
did any of your children stay at your house?
So I don't think that they were there at that point. Certainly my baby wasn't there.
I'm talking about this entire period. We're talking about, if I remember correctly, and you'll correct me, I'm sure, you said that you stayed there at what I would call the Yerty condo until January of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm asking you in that period, which would be February to April of 2021 until January of 22, did any of your children stay at your house?
And you don't have to yell at me. I'm able to understand. So I would ask you to not yell at me. That being said, I don't actually expressly remember, but I can tell you since I have left my home, there have been times my oldest daughter came in, but I can't tell you with certainty the time window that you've said, if they did or not. And so I don't want to speculate to that, but there was some time that my oldest daughter came back, whether it was that period or after I left the Yerty residence, I'm not sure. Okay.
Okay, so if I continue to go into more detail on this, you're not going to be able to give me an answer of whether or not, in fact, any of your children were still at the house or stayed at your house during that time period, correct?
What I can give you clarity of so that we are clear is from the time I moved out in February-ish of 2021, after I left there was a time period that my oldest daughter came back. But if you're asking me, was it in that window or after, I just don't have a recollection of that because, you know, your kids come and they go. And so I don't remember the specific time period, and I apologize for that.
Did your children ever stay with you at the Yerty condo?
Like maybe a night,
Okay.
like for a girls' night or something, but live with, no.
Okay. Did anyone else stay with you at the Yerty condo, including Miss Yerty?
Never. Miss Yerty never lived in the condo. She met her husband and they moved. They weren't quite married, but they moved. Nobody ever lived with me in the condo. That was
My word was stayed, not lived. Stayed with you at the condo.
I guess I don't understand the distinction, but no one ever, I think my baby's my oldest child. I think she spent one night with me, maybe my oldest and my youngest. But I think that whole time I was in that place, other than that one night, I don't think anyone ever, this was a very lonely period in my life. I don't think anyone ever spent the night other than maybe one night. I remember a picture of my baby sitting on the couch in that place, and I'm thinking she spent that night. But just a very lonely time in life.
Okay, we'll stay with the lonely theme just for a minute. Did Nathan Wade visit you at the Yerty condo from the time you moved in until he was hired on November the 1st of 2021?
So I moved out of that condo, but during that time period, I'm sure he came to visit. I can remember us going, I think the restaurant's Lickety Split. I can remember him picking me up, going to Lickety Split and ordering some food and coming and sitting at my table and eating. So I remember times that he visited me at that condo, yes.
Okay, could you give us an approximation of how many times Mr. Wade visited you at the condo between the time you moved in and prior to November 1 of 2020?
I don't think often, but I don't want to speculate.
Can we say more than 5, more than 10?
I'm going to tell you the problem I'm having here. Let's say more than 10, but I'm not sure that that's even accurate. He certainly has come and picked me up want to grab some food to eat. I don't remember him being in that condo a lot.
Okay, that's your.
I'm sorry. You want a number, and what I don't want to do.
Giving me your current and best recollection is all I'm asking for.
That's all I can give you, sir.
How many times did any of the prosecution team, how many times did come to that condo between the time you moved in and November 1st of 2021?
I don't think Anna's ever been to that condo.
What about any other prosecutor that's involved in the prosecution of this case?
I don't think any of them have.
Just Mr. Wade.
That's correct, sir.
But it was a lonely time.
Oh my God. That 2021, I have a lot of guilt about this time period in my life. Let me tell you why. But yes, it was a lonely time.
Okay.
I was very appreciative to the citizens for giving me this responsibility and this duty. But what I very, very quickly learned is that this is a very isolating job. And 2021 was a lonely time. I turned 50 in 2021. That's probably one of the worst birthdays I've ever had. I spent it alone. So I have a clear recollection of 2021 being lonely.
Okay. Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at the condo, the time period I'm talking about, prior to November of 2021, when Miss Yerty was at the condo?
So Miss Yerty and me, we didn't share the condo at the same time.
So the answer would be no.
But we never stayed there together, so it's an impossibility.
It's an impossibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Miss Yerty, because we need to get clarification on this. Miss Yerty stayed in that place. There may have been a time that me and Mr. Wade visited, like went and saw Miss Yerty, but me and Miss Yerty never lived there together. Just so we're clear.
Well, maybe that was clear, but I'm going to have to try again.
Okay.
Was Miss Yerty still living in the condo when you moved in?
Not a day.
Okay. So what I'm talking
about misrepresentation in this. We never lived together. I never lived with Miss Yerty.
My question, though,
She gets so hung up on anything that she got mad about in the filing.
trying to understand
Okay.
that after you moved in to the condo, Miss Yerty she was out of the condo, right?
She got a house.
That's all I'm asking. She's not in the condo.
We never stay, Miss Yerty and I never stay a day together in the condo. All of her stuff was out of the condo, and all my stuff, some of my stuff, not all of it obviously, was moved into the condo. So we never stayed there together. No, sir.
All right. So when I asked you about Mr. Wade visiting the condo when you were staying there,
Yes,
Miss Yerty wasn't staying there, correct?
that would be correct. Yes.
She wouldn't be at the condo, correct?
No, she would not have been.
It would be you and Mr. Wade alone at the condo, correct?
Yes.
That is, there weren't any other witnesses to Mr. Wade and you at the condo, correct?
Yes.
No security, none of your security detail.
I'm gonna object. She said it was just her and Mr. Wade.
You made your point, Mr. Sato. Let's move on to the next one.
My name is Lisa.
Oh, no,
Addiction
Lisa.
Cost me my son.
Lisa,
No
I'm
matter
sorry to
what
hear
he
that.
told me.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Next one. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You want to know what? I think we're done. I think we're good. We're good. We saw what we were gonna say. I'm now bored of it, and so we will be done with that. Okay. Which was worse, this testimony or Biden's press conference? Well, I will have that be. I'm far more studied in the history of presidential campaign press conferences than I am on the law of Fulton County. So I'm going on secondhand information and hearsay and conjecture when I say that was bad. I will say, as a keen judge of human character, that woman was mad as hell. That woman was upset. She was not having a good time. She really was angry. She wanted people to know her perspective on things, and she wanted to let people know that there was a lot of people out here lying on her. She was getting lied on. And from a human perspective, I really appreciate that. I mean, I don't know. I like people that stick up for themselves and fight. Is it the most prudent legal strategy? I'll dovetail all of that with this. This is one of my new theories of the campaign. That there are good cases for Donald Trump and bad cases for Donald Trump. Follow me on this. Donald Trump is charged with a lot of stuff. Donald Trump, based on polling, would be a less electable candidate if he is convicted for some of these things. However, there was also public sentiment that if he were indicted, people would believe in him less. And after he was indicted a lot, people believed in him more. I saw a approval poll yesterday that had Donald Trump over 50%. I don't think in the history of his political career he has been net popular. And yet here he is. So these indictments did not sink him. Indeed, they made him more popular. My suspicion on that is that the concept of a politicized justice system is good for him. So if people believe, if voters believe that these cases are either trumped up, pun intended, or if he is being unfairly targeted, then not only does it muddy up the waters for the charges that people do believe are legitimate, for which the January 6th case is by far the one that people take the most seriously. The one that people take the least seriously is the one that started yesterday, the let's do the Stormy Daniels dance again for the 50,000th time in Manhattan. And then the other two are somewhere in the middle, the Mar-a-Lago docks case and this case here in Georgia. Obviously, it would be his great wish, Donald Trump's great wish, and the wish of his campaign that they would all go away. And so therefore, it would be 1/4 of their great wish if this trial went away. I don't believe this will. I don't know the threshold by which somebody has to cross to get something thrown out like this. And so I would therefore be surprised if it happened. However, muddying up the case, so when the noise around it gets really, really big, is possibly just as good for him. In that it begins to do what he really, really wants, inoculate any kind of conviction. Create the narrative that there is a political class of justice that he is the true victim of. Should he be able to do that, he will be able to take the sting out of something that would otherwise be entirely disqualifying. What does that mean to the larger contest? We will only be able to guess. Rather, we'll only be able to wait and see. How would Rush sum it up? I have just gotten done, dear listeners, watching here at EIB World Headquarters in Palm Beach, Florida, Lady District Attorney Fani Willis disgrace herself and present a clear and undeniable picture of a disqualifiable district attorney because of her lustful, inappropriate relationship with a novice being assigned to prosecute a RICO case. If we lived in a just and fair world, and dear listeners, we will wait to see that judgment, then the judge would have disqualified Miss Willis immediately. And we could get on to understanding the real problems in our country. Hunter Biden buying crack with Chinese money. We'll be right back on the EIB network. It would sound a little something like that. I think it would sound a little something. It would go a little something. Oh, like this. All right, there we go. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up here for today. I know we were going to take calls, but we're not going to take calls because we wound up watching Fonnie Willis for the entire time. And I don't know, maybe we'll do more of this stuff. I know a lot of people, they do react videos. That's what they do. They like react videos. I only got a chance to see that in clips and I was obsessed with it. So I don't know if we'll always do something like that, but we did it now. All right. Till next time, friends, this is your old pal, Justin Robert Young, saying go listen to the PX3 episode. Super PAC. We have a Super PAC interview. Dimitri Melhorn investing in us, a big, big anti-Trump money source that puts a lot of different cash in a lot of different places. They funded the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit. Very interesting interview. That dude did his homework. Before we started the interview, he said, I thought it was very interesting that you grew up in Florida during the 2000 election. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was very formative. Where did you see that? And he's like, oh, your C-SPAN appearance. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Dude did his homework. He did his homework. And he had his handlers tell me that he wanted to challenge my position on Biden being too old. But I thought it was good. I thought it was really, really interesting. He was very dialed into the fact that the show was only about winning and losing. Only about winning and losing. I would say go ahead and listen to that interview. My audio has been out of sync for an hour. Well, thank you for waiting an hour, Meryl. All right, cool.